Hello everyone. In the previous videos, we discussed that free consent is an essential element of a valid contract. We also discussed that coercion and undue influence are two elements that, if present, consent is not free anymore. In this video, we are going to discuss coercion and undue influence. Section 15 of the Indian Contract Act defines coercion. First, let's look at the definition of the word coercion under the Indian Contract Act, and then we are going to break down all the elements of the definition and understand everything one by one with the help of examples. According to section 15, coercion is the committing or threatening to commit any act forbidden by IPC, or the unlawful detaining or threatening to detain any property, to the prejudice of any person, whatever, with the intention of causing any person to enter into an agreement. Here you see there are two ways by which coercion can be caused. One is committing or threatening to commit any forbidden act by IPC. And second is unlawfully detaining or threatening to detain any property. Let's understand the first element with the help of examples. A and B are two businessmen. B has a very fancy car that A wants. A goes to B and says, "Sell your car to me for 5 lakh rupees." B says he does not want to sell his car. A goes to B next day again. This time A threatens B with a gun in his hand to sell the car for 5 lakh rupees. B is scared and he signs the papers. After some time B goes to court and says his consent was not free as it was caused by coercion, and that is why the contract is not valid. In this example, A threatened B to commit an act forbidden by IPC with the intention of causing B to enter into an agreement. We saw the second element is detaining or threatening to detain any property. Let's look at another example. A and B are two neighbors. B wants to buy A's motorcycle. B goes and takes A's dog that A loves so much and says, "You have to sell your motorcycle to me for 50,000 rupees if you want your dog back." A has to agree because he loves his dog. A later denies the motorcycle. Here, B detained A's property unlawfully, and that is why the consent is not free consent. In one of the real cases, a husband asked his wife and son to give their property to his brother by threatening to commit suicide. It was held that the contract is not valid as the consent was not a free consent. Remember, when the consent is caused by coercion or undue influence, it is not a free consent and the agreement is voidable at the option of the affected party. Also, IPC need not be enforced in the place where coercion is caused. For example, two Indians were in England. While they were in England, A threatened B that if you want your son to be alive who is in Chennai, sell your beach house in Chennai to me for 10 lakh rupees. B agrees because of the threat. When they go back to India, B sees his son is fine and he denies to sell the house to A. We saw IPC is not applicable in England and coercion was caused in England. Still, this agreement is voidable. That means B can decide if he wants to sell or not. Remember, two important points here. One, coercion can be committed by any party, not necessarily by a party to the contract. Two, it need not be directed against the contracted party, it can be against anyone else. Now we have completed coercion. Let's look at undue influence. Section 16 defines undue influence. The definition is shown on the screen. You can pause the video and read the definition. Since the definition is very long, I will directly get into the important elements of this definition. 1. There should be a relationship between the parties where one party is in a position to dominate the will of another party. Second, the dominant party uses its position to obtain an unfair advantage over the other. Let's look at an example. B is 16 years old. B goes to his uncle and takes a loan of 10,000 rupees. When B turns 19, his uncle comes to him and asks him to sign an agreement where B will pay 1 lakh rupees to his uncle instead of that loan amount which was 10,000 originally. Here, there is a relationship between the parties, uncle and nephew. B's uncle is in a position to dominate B's will. And as we all can see, the uncle is taking an unfair advantage of B because he's asking for a very unfair amount of money. In this case, even if B agrees to pay this 1 lakh rupees, later B can claim undue influence. In many relationships, generally it is assumed that one party is in a position to dominate the will of another party. For example, parents and child relationships, trustee and beneficiary, doctor and patient, police officer and accused, creditor and debtor. If you want to claim undue influence, you have to prove two things in court. One, other party was in a dominant position. Two, he used that position unfairly. We have now understood undue influence and coercion both. We have a whole series going on the law of contract. Link is given in the description. If you're interested, please check out those other videos as well. If you like this video, share it with your friends and classmates. Subscribe to our channel for more educational content and law and on commerce and many other videos. You can also follow us on Instagram. If you have any suggestions for us, please provide it in the comment box. Thank you.